It's time to get the story behind the story. Interviews with newsmakers, news breakers, and your phone calls. Radio Vermont presents The Mark Johnson Show.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. Thanks for tuning in. A night full of rain. Wow, it was pretty incredible last night. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. We do have more rain for you in the forecast today, but I'll let Roger Hill take the heat for that. Coming up on the program this morning, later this hour, we're going to talk with Jeff Wolfe. He's the founder of Grow Solar. He is behind a symposium coming up that's going to talk about climate change, children, and faith. We'll find out what the connection is between the three of those. All right, let's talk about the conference, which does talk about climate change, talks about our kids, and talks about faith. So let's start at the end there. What's the faith connection here to this discussion?
So I left my CEO role at Grow Solar back in June of 2012, a year ago, and so I had a little more time on my hands. And one of the things I've been thinking about is what motivates me, because people have encouraged me to think about that to help figure out what I want to do next. And I'm still searching for what really motivates me, but it has become very clear there's some kind of a spark inside of me of faith, very broadly defined, that makes me want to make things better, and makes me want to make things better for my kids. And without getting deeply into faith or spirituality, I think it's sufficient to say just that there is a spark there that drives many, many people. And that spark might be a very formed mainstream religion. It might be a very unformed, non-mainstream shamanic practice, or a more formed shamanic practice, or it might be a Far Eastern religion. But many, many, many people have some kind of a spark there. So in sitting down and talking with the United Church of Strafford minister, Byron Brees, back in February, he has become concerned about climate and was wondering how the church could become more involved. And so it's one of those things, sitting around over lunch or over our dining room table, just saying, well, we should put on a symposium. Not quite really knowing what that meant, and I've always said that naivete is my strong suit, and lets you get involved in a lot of things you might not do otherwise. So from that conversation, we formed the kind of the theory and the basis for what we would talk about at the symposium. And it turns out that it's different than anybody else is talking about on climate. There have been some religious folks who have done what's called creation care work, which is a very theology-based movement, typically evangelical Christian, and it is an interpretation of the Bible which speaks of what does dominion mean and what does stewardship mean, and the interpretation being, rather than that dominion does not mean it is yours to take and destroy. Dominion means it is yours to take care, shepherd, and pass along. And I certainly agree with that interpretation, although I am no Bible scholar. But what we've done is taken a different viewpoint and said climate disruption is the leading cause, and will be for our future, the leading cause of social inequity in the world. When a hurricane hits the New Jersey coast, it destroys houses without prejudice. It destroys homes and living places equally. But the ability to rebuild is very, very unequal. And so that exacerbates the social inequalities that exist. When there's a drought in the Midwest and food prices go up, you and I, Mark, are hit in our pocketbooks as food prices go up. But someone who is paying 75% of their income in a developing world for food is hit far, far worse. And so again, that exacerbates the social inequity. So climate disruption turns out to be the largest creator of social inequity I believe the world has ever seen. So in that spirit, and also understanding that if it's increasing, it will have the biggest burden on our children. And then you step back and say, okay, what's motivating me? Faith. What underlies all faiths? A drive for social equality and a concern for our children, because our faith is carried on by our children. So when you put those pieces together and say climate disruption is the biggest creator of social inequality, for us and for our children especially. And the foundation of my faith, my spirituality, is driving for social equality and driving for social equality for my children. Then it really requires that a faithful person respond to climate disruption. And this is literally something that we spoke about over my dining room table and spoke about in a small steering committee, and then started going out to recruit speakers for. And as we recruited speakers, and we've got a tremendous lineup of speakers from across Vermont and literally across the country, as we spoke to the speakers, the uniform response was, Jeff, this is a tremendous conversation, one that's not being had anywhere else in the country, and one that we believe is fundamental to the discussion about faith and climate. And in fact, this could be the call for the new relevance of faith in people's lives today. So sometimes you create something and it grows beyond what you ever thought it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're finding with the symposium.
Kind of like your company. But what is it? What is different about people of faith that are going to make it easier for them to get people engaged in this issue and to actually get something done that will help the planet?
Well, that's a large part of what the symposium is going to discuss, is what is different, what is that spark. But I mean, my thought is that the people we're anytime you're trying to create action, you need to create a spark. You need to find a spark for motivation. And different people have different triggers, different sparks. And for many people, faith is that spark, that trigger. If you look at the great social movements in the country and in the world, they have been led by people of faith. From Gandhi in India to King in the U.S., and back into history. The great social movements have been led by people of faith. So our belief is that people of faith not only can be motivated by this issue, but in fact have to be motivated by this issue for us to succeed.
We're talking with Jeff Wolfe. He's started Grow Solar. He's put together a symposium that's going to be happening a week from today and through the weekend down in Strafford. Before I forget, where do people get info on this? Is there a website yet?
There's a tremendous website. It's faithclimateconference.org. Faith, like religious faith, climateconference.org.
Now, you know this, and I know this, that there are some people of faith who believe that global warming is the natural evolution that's supposed to happen before whatever is going to happen to the planet. And in fact, some believe that it's okay.
Well, there's certainly biblical interpretations that I've heard that take it that way. I don't think there's any mainstream interpretation that says that, and from what I know of the Bible, certainly, I don't know the other faiths so well, but from what I know of the Bible, it is not supposed to be man that creates end times. It is supposed to be God that creates end times. And all signs point that man is certainly at any reading influencing what's happening here. And so that would not be, in a biblical sense, God's will then. And I think it's well shown in the Bible also what happens to those who try and pervert God's will. Then another speaker I heard said very, very well, if you think God's going to protect us from this, God doesn't protect the little girl who burns her hand on a wood stove. Why would God protect us when we're consciously doing this? So I think that the world has been created and we have the tools we need to address this problem. That's the gift. It's like the rowboat that drifts by in the storm, right? You have to get into the rowboat. That's the gift. We have the tools we need to fight this problem. We need to use the gifts that are given to us.
Mm-hmm. As soon as you start talking about religion, that spooks some people and scares some people.
Mark, it spooks me. This is a very new place I find myself in. And the symposium is extremely pluralistic. We have main